Check 1 2 1 2. What you got there in your book?
So I was sitting there listening to the my portion of the story, and I started drawing out what I imagine the hole to look like.
Mel's hole, right?
Mel's hole, yeah. So I got a little couch right here, and some fishing line, and some tires.
I know traditionally I tend to hurt your feelings at least once during every recording.
It's true.
It's literally the shittiest drawing I've ever seen.
It's just a bunch of squiggly lines.
Dude. Oh my God.
My couch looks like a donut.
It looks like whenever people are like, like those people that like get possessed and they ask for like a tablet to like write and like the demon is making their arm move. That's what this shit looks like.
And maybe what was happening. Maybe I got possessed by the hole.
Man, you ready to do this?
Heck yes.
Let's do that shit.
Ew.
So we're back for another open mic night. Now check it out. We were going to record this as a fun time horror show because we've already kind of touched on the topic of Mel's hole in like 2 episodes ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we said, let's do like a really cool, badass, fun time horror show. The problem is, for me personally, between all of the work that we do during the day, combined with the hobbies that I have, combined with it being Christmas, and combined with me starting to go to the gym now and now battling a second case of hemorrhoids, I've been kind of sidetracked. And Fun Time Horror Show takes a lot of work. It really does. And I have a lot more fun doing this, right? Like this.
Yeah, this format is more fun. It's more informal. We can just kind of wing it. I think we do well with that.
Yeah, I like winging it, man. I don't know. We were just talking about. Why are you pointing at me?
I don't know.
So, I think Fun Time Horror Show has just outlived its usefulness at this point. But it's like I don't want to ever lose that audio because every one of those like 1 hour episodes took us like 20 hours to produce.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, maybe even 40 hours sometimes, whenever you take all the research, the writing, the production and everything. So why don't we just kill that feed, pull the plug, if you will, and then maybe we can just share that content as bonus episodes or as paid content someday if anybody ever shows any interest in doing that type of thing.
I think that's a phenomenal ideal.
Yeah. Maybe it'll help pay for our production cost of open mic night.
It'll probably help pay for your butthole surgery.
Yeah. Man, dude, it sucks so bad, man. It's so embarrassing and gross and extremely painful all at the same fucking time. And I literally just went through this like in July. But did I ever tell you about that surgery?
No. Why don't you tell me now?
What better time than on a worldwide podcast? Jesus Christ.
Everyone can know what happened to Tommy's hole, and then we'll talk about Mel's hole.
Guys, I'm struggling with, I guess, nobody ever called it a hemorrhoid. I'm just calling it a hemorrhoid. I guess that's what it is. But
it's probably easier just to come up with a name like that.
Essentially, like I'm getting kind of past the embarrassment part about it because I was recently doing some research on these things, and because I can't continue to have a surgery like every 6 fucking months of my life for the rest of my life. So there's got to be something that can be done, but man, Stacy's like, well, you went through it once before, like you'll be okay. Like if I have an appointment on Monday, today's Thursday. It's like the Monday before Christmas. And I know if I go in there and they elect to do this, I guess it's a minor surgery. But it's essentially like going through a fucking Saw movie. It's so brutal. It's over the top. It's so painful. So let me share that process with you now.
So you wake up in the middle of a empty room, like handcuffed to a radiator.
There's like a micro cassette and you play it and all there is like a scalpel and a mirror. So you can like hover over it and look at your butthole.
Attached to your butthole is a razor blade.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, have you ever seen like Living with Jigsaw?
Dude, I love those sketches.
I love those sketches too, man. Like, you gotta walk across the floor with razor blades. It's a bunch of disposable razors.
Just turned upside down. The wine in your glass has been replaced by the blood of a 3-toed sloth.
Man, last time I went, I basically, it was kind of like the same patterns happening. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks now. It starts off with like a little discomfort. Like little sharp pains, and like they just kind of like pierce through the opening of your butthole, and then you start to feel like this meaty protrusion. Like it's almost like perfectly round. And honestly, the first time this happened to me, I thought it was like a cyst or something. And I even like tried to squeeze it.
Oh God.
Right.
It sounds like it hurt really bad.
Yeah, it was really painful. Nothing of course ever happened because it wasn't a cyst. And then I just let it go and go and go. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then finally it became painful, and it gets really uncomfortable because like, honestly, like I'm just sitting there, like talking to people. And sometimes like you can actually like physically feel it move around. Like it's kind of weird.
You can feel your pulse in that shit.
Yeah. Something like that. I think it's kind of like mine's technically external, I think, but I think it like goes in and then it like plops back out as it swells up again.
Yeah.
So you can feel it like,
yeah.
And it almost feels like you're going to to the bathroom on yourself a little bit.
You're shitting yourself.
So I went to the doctor. I called this doctor and I'm like, listen, if I come in there, I'm not coming for a consultation. Like I need a fix now. I need a fix today. Right. And he was like, yeah, most of the things that we do can be done like right here in the office and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I go there and, this man tells me to undress and, like lay on my side and he'll be back in a minute. Well, he comes in and, this time he has like this, what I would call this really cute young black woman with them. And, this is my assistant. She's going to be assisting me today. And it was bad enough to like have this strange man like looking at my butthole. But now I have like this kind of cute chick who's going to be assisting with the observation of my backside. And as soon as he like spreads my butt cheeks, right, he's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Oh, yeah. We got a live one. You remember the Ghostbusters and they hit the bell? Like on their first ghost call. That's kind of what it felt like. So immediately I knew I was in trouble because of his reaction. So he ends up doing this thing. He explains it to me. It's called a thrombectomy. And what he does is he takes out a needle and proceeds to give me a shot into the anus. And what it feels like at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 different places. So I don't know if you've ever had a needle into your anus, but it's not pleasant. It's not what you might think it would be.
Well, I have had a needle in my scrotum, and that was not great. So I'm imagining it's something similar.
I found that to be like a vacation compared to, because I too have had a shot in my scrotum. But so he does that and basically he's deadening it. And then they take out a scalpel and they slice this thing open, which leaves, I don't know how big the slice was. But I imagine it was probably at least a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch.
A 1/2 inch slice in your ass?
Maybe, yeah.
Whoa.
It felt like it. It felt like it was the whole ass had been sliced open. But and then what they have to do is they're basically going to squeeze. It's basically a blood clot. And it's like chunks of blood clot. And they have to get it out of the vein. But they have to go all the way to the very beginning of the vein, which is inside me. And at this point, it feels like I have 2 sets, a combination of 4 adult-sized hands inside my cavity, 2 spreading me open and 2 inside, pressing against this vein and like slowly working its way out and just squeezing and just in over and over, into out, just pressing against this vein, squeezing it all the blood clots. And I've never had 4 hands inside of me at the same time. It's the worst thing ever.
They were playing paper, rock, scissors inside of you.
It's so fucking over the top and brutal. And I don't care how much deadening they have, you still feel that pressure of just being
Fisted.
Yeah, times 4. I think at one point, for some reason, one of them had even their foot inside of me. I'm not sure.
They were trying to climb inside of you.
Dude. So after they do that, bless your tiny heart, dude.
I'm sorry.
I may have to edit that out.
You're gonna have to. Sorry, I died.
After they do that, he says, "Okay, we're all done," and I'm like, "Oh, thank God." Luckily, there was no stitches or anything involved. They just kind of leave it open, like they did your vasectomy, right? Like they just leave it open. But then he asked me an interesting question. He said, "Do you want to see?" Obviously, obviously, I want to see.
How can I not?
So I'm like laying on my side, and my face is like right here. You know, like my left side of my face is laying on the cushion, and he just comes right over the top of my face and sets right down in front of my face on the bed next to me a paper towel with all the remnants of what looked like crushed black cherries.
Oh,
right. And anyway, that's what my life is like, dude.
It made me think about, have you ever seen someone have a boil popped?
No, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to watch that shit, dude.
Well,
like Dr. Pimple Popper and all that.
That's what it makes me think of, though.
Yeah, I
Can
don't
you
want to
imagine
watch
if your
it.
job was to pop someone's ass blood?
Well, and I even joked with them, and I said something about like I don't know. I said something to the regards of like, why in the world did like you had to choose this job? You know what I mean? Like, why would you do this? And I consider myself at least like a semi-handsome guy, right? Can you imagine the people that come in off the street?
Just
like that definitely don't have their shit together as much as I do.
They don't groom. They haven't wiped in a while.
Oh man, no telling what you see in that line of work, dude. Like it's horrible. I actually feel a little sick thinking about it.
It's getting kind of shitty in here.
Anyway, he basically said, well, somebody has to do it, so might as well be me getting paid, And I'm like, well, I can't blame the guy for that.
I mean, the pharaohs in ancient Egypt had a dedicated butt servant. I don't know if you know about that.
No.
Like they're responsible for cleaning the pharaoh's ass and like making sure it was like good.
Dude, you thought your job was bad?
Pharaoh ass.
Yeah. Like forget the little emblems of like the saints and stuff. You should wear an emblem like a medallion of the
starfish
of the pharaoh cleaning ass guy. The pharaoh. And that way when you're having a bad day, instead of praying to Saint Peter, you just say, "Oh wow, at least I'm not the ass pharaoh guy."
Why is Tommy wearing a rosebud around his neck?
Dude, that's horrible, man. Anyway, what story did you have to share today? That's my story. I don't want to talk anymore.
Mine's not better. You want to share mine?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a neighbor who has pretty much been abandoned by her family. Like, I don't know what this lady did, but no one will take ownership of her. And I found people on Facebook. I found people. I literally played detective almost 2 years ago now. I've been dealing with this for 2 years. One time I was in her house, and she's really old, and she's can't hear very well. And she can't see very well, so I kind of snuck off and found her study, and I started going through her her little address book and started finding names and just writing down numbers. And I gained some traction, a little bit. I found a cousin of hers in somewhere in North Texas, but every single person I can get a hold of is "Oh, well, I'm real old too," or "I have cancer," or "Oh, I live so far away," and then do you know how to get a hold of her kids? No.
That's kind of fucked up though, because I have a brain tumor and apparently ass tumors, and I'm still gonna go cut Stacy's uncle's grass on Saturday, dude, because he needs help.
These people are bad. And so I don't know what she did, or whatever happened between that family, but they're literally letting her just die alone, and so she keeps coming over to us for help, and we've been helping her for 2 years now, and it's not an obligation. Well, I mean, it does. It's starting to feel that way. I mean, at first you're just trying to do the right thing because somebody's living in a bad way. But I'm starting to find how difficult it is. You see the stories on TV, or have you seen the story on Netflix about the kid, Gabriel, the Hispanic kid that was getting beat up by his his mom and her boyfriend, and he eventually died.
Oh, dude, that happened a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, so in that story and many stories like it, people were like calling the county, calling the city, like, hey, this is happening. Hey, this is happening. And then nothing would really go from there. You see how that happens. Like, I keep on having to call like adult protective services and stuff to try and get her help. And I finally got, after trying for about a year, I finally got them out there, and they finally like realized what was going on. So they exterminated and they sent a crew to clean.
Yeah, I remember you just telling us about that. What, like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, she comes over the other day, just like, my wife calls me and she's like, hey, I don't know what to do. Or she's over here and she's, frantic. She says she's gone blind. She's scared. She doesn't know what to do. She's asking to go to the hospital, and I'm working. And so like, we're sitting here trying to figure this out because we're both working. And what it equates to is I make my way home after finishing up what I was doing. And we start trying to get her situated to go to the hospital because my wife couldn't take her. She didn't want an ambulance. So I get there, and it took about an hour to get her out of her house because she kept on coming up with like, oh, help me find my teeth. Oh, I need this, get that. And it was like, I'm trying to be patient, but she kept on like thinking of things. And so we finally get her in the vehicle, and I'm pulling out, and she's like, you're going to stay with me, right? And it's like, I can't stay in the ER with you. No, I have to come back. I have a job and family, and she's like, well, can you call Robert? And she's old, so she starts asking for people that haven't been around for a long time. And so, basically she starts having this freak out in my vehicle, and we're not even fully, we're half in her driveway, half in our street. And she's just like belligerent, right? And I'm like, well, I don't want to be driving around with some elderly lady and it looks like I'm kidnapping her, or she looks all frantic, or you know what I mean? So I was like, this is a liability at this point. So I ended up calling her an ambulance. Man, if you were to see the state of her house, dude, like there's roaches crawling everywhere. Like there's just clutter. And this is after having extermination and cleaning.
Damn, you're going to have to do your house too, man, because that shit will transfer easily right next door.
Oh, I know. But we're talking about like, we went in there to help her whenever they were trying to get her to go to the hospital, or when we were trying to get her to go to the hospital. And we were trying to find her ID, and she was like, oh, it's in my handbag. And dude, we picked up her bag, and like, it must have been, I don't know, 30 roaches that just scattered all from around it. Like,
jeez.
It's nuts. And so the firefighters showed up, and I don't know, man, it was kind of frustrating because they don't know the situation, and they were being a little condescending, like, well, why didn't you take her, kind of stuff. And it was like, dude, you don't realize like everything that's going on here and how much we've tried to help this lady. So it's hard because, after everything we did, right, to get her help, we ended up having to go pick her up.
And she's also struggling with dementia, right?
Well, you know what? That's another thing. I don't know because.
Well, she said she was blind. Was she blind?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm starting to wonder if she's not just exaggerating. I'm not saying that she doesn't have bad health, because she does.
Right.
But she acts like a certain way with us. But when the firefighters are in there, he's like, because she's telling us she can't see it all. He's like, how many fingers am I holding up? 5. How many now? 1. What's your social security number? 531, blah, 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 blah. She knew everything. The only thing she didn't know is what my name was and what year it was. She thought it was 2022. And for some reason that my name was Oscar.
Yeah, I think... I've been researching, not as much as you, but been researching a little bit about dementia just so I know what to understand or what's going on with my mother-in-law, right? And then you have the situation with your dad. But one of the things that they said was like sometimes they'll remember things from like, 20 years ago, but they can't remember anything from like 2 minutes ago.
Right.
Or 20 minutes ago or whatever. And also anger seems to be synonymous with dementia, freaking out. And
well, that's why I turned around, because she was like, I need you to call this person. And I was like, how? You don't have a cell phone? I have a regular damn phone.
Yeah.
Like yelling at me. And I was like, okay, but do you have a phone book on your phone? Because I thought you had a landline. And she's just yelling at me, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, and I don't even know how to respond to that, but I do know that you can't argue with them.
Well, yeah, I was just
can't argue with them, and you got to be like way like super positive all the time. And I don't know how you do that in that situation. Plus, like you guys have no ties to this person other than you're trying to be a good person, right?
Well, that's the part that's starting to like. So, man, and this is not even like I'm not going to say everything we've done. We've done a lot for her, and I'm not asking for anything in return. At this point, though, I definitely want the family to take over. Like we're starting to get frustrated because I found her grandson. Like she was like, she gave us his first and last name, and we found his name on the refrigerator. Then we found her Facebook from when she used to have social media, and we found all her friends list, and we found people by the names that she has in her house, and we've messaged all of them. None of them have responded. She was like, "Get the names off the refrigerator," and there's a phone number that says so and so's next of kin. I'm not going to say her name, but next of kin. Call that number. And it's an active number. Left a voicemail 2 days ago. Nothing. Yeah.
Damn, dude. That sucks, man. It reminds me a little bit, and you have like some guilty feelings, I'm sure, whenever you get frustrated at a situation or a person like that. I find that with my kids. Every once in a while, my kids will bring it. First of all, my kids hardly call me unless they need guidance for something or they're experiencing a problem. But what frustrates me the most is they're like, Dad, this and this is going on. Well, maybe you should try this. Oh, I can't do it because of that. Well, what about, have you ever considered this and this? Well, that's not going to work because of this, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And finally I get to like 4, 5, 6 possible solutions. And all I've gotten is 4, 5 or 6 excuses why that will never work.
Right.
And at some point I'm like, well, like at this point, you're past my level of expertise or experience. So you just need to figure it out. Like, I even do that with my own kids. It's like my friend in Tennessee says, you can hold their head underwater, but you can't make them drink. So
maybe they'll drown.
Yeah. Oh man. What else you got going on, dude? What's going on in your life that you want to talk about?
Roundhouse and Jaguars.
What? I'm glued to this drone story, man. I know we talked about it last episode, but there's some developments. I heard this mayor of one of the New Jersey towns speaking yesterday, and he said that he actually had an in-depth conversation with an FBI guy. And apparently what they've realized, or what they think, hypothesize, is these drones are, okay, first of all, 90% of the people are saying there's nothing to see here. Move along.
Right.
That's what 90% of the conversation is. They're saying, oh, well, there's 8 million registered drones and 500,000 are up in the sky at any given time and blah, blah, blah. These are just, they're kind of making, dude, nobody owns a fucking drone the size of a small automobile. I can almost guarantee that.
I have too.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And you're not sharing?
Jesus Christ has several drones too.
So they're kind of blowing it off. But then this one mayor comes out and says, well, I had an in-depth talk with an FBI agent, person, investigator. And he was saying, or this person was saying, that they have identified a pattern where they're actually operating and working in a grid-like fashion. They're actually covering areas of the states that are involved as like it was working itself through a grid. And one reason for this is there was apparently a shipment coming, say, like in a box truck or an 18-wheeler, I'm not sure, from, I think, Canada, making its way through the states, through the United States, that was carrying some type of medical grade nuclear materials.
Right.
And something happened on its route where apparently the cargo of this truck is just gone.
Huh.
So I don't think it was involved in a wreck. I don't think like anything like that. It's almost like this truck has been hijacked, or these materials are just missing. And so what these drones are doing is basically, I guess they have some type of detection type equipment where it can actually sense whatever this material is supposed to be. And it's basically working its way into a grid across the state of New Jersey, trying to locate this missing nuclear material. And it could either be our government knowing about it and not wanting to say anything to cause panic that this material is on the loose, or it could be enemies who have been made aware that this material exists and they're trying to get their hands on it. But that's a really interesting scenario if that's true, right?
It is. I mean, it's got to be more likely that it would be our own government, because why would they let someone just be that close to our airspace?
Unless they're not letting them. I mean, some people have saying that the technology in these drones even outweigh the fighter jets that have been deployed in order to intercept them. They can black themselves out. They can disappear off. They're not able to be captured on radar. They can just go completely dark with the push of a button. And apparently they can outmaneuver and outspeed anything that we know is available as far as drone technology is concerned.
Where do you think they're getting them from? Academy?
Did it just make your Christmas list?
I need one of those drones where you can spy on America with.
You're dumb, dude.
I know. But seriously, that would... I didn't hear that. My thinking was that it was some sort of Russian, North Korean, Chinese kind of thing. Like maybe...
I heard there was an Iranian mothership off our coast that they've been tracking for a month. And they were Iranian drones. That's the thing is, like, think of all the scenarios that we've just talked about in the last, 5 minutes. The possibilities are really endless, dude.
But you got to think about who our main enemies are.
Everyone.
But, the ones that
Hell, even Canada can't stand us right now. They're like our retarded little cousins.
Yeah, but...
Shout out to our Canadian listeners.
But, they're kind of having an upheaval over there, too. Trudeau is in kind of some trouble. It seems like he's going to be ousted soon.
Well, and I heard one thing that was concerning. There was, I don't remember what they call him, a premier, I think, which is essentially like a governor or something of a section.
Prime minister,
of Canada, of a state of Canada. I don't know how Canada works, but he was, apparently Canada is involved somehow with supplying the United States with electricity. And this guy came on TV saying, well, if they're going to implement a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, we'll just cut off their electricity supply. And that was actually kind of concerning to me at first, because every time we have a freeze or anything like that, we always have this massive shortage, right? And these fucking people keep pushing electric vehicles and everything else. We don't even have enough electricity to supply our homes with heat in the winter, much less, millions of electric cars, right? So I was a little concerned about that. But then the next day I saw that Trump made a statement, and they were like, President Trump, what do you think about, this guy threatening to cut off the power supply? And he was like, okay, tell him to do it. He literally doesn't give a fuck, dude. He doesn't care. And then what was interesting was a few days after that, I then saw all these other, I guess, equals to this premier, right? His colleagues that oversee other sections. They're like, we're not cutting the U.S. off. So, dude, President Trump said one thing: control your border or we're going to implement a tariff. That's it. Do your job. Do your fucking job. That's all he said. That's all that he wants. He just wants people to do their fucking job. And maybe that's too much in 2024 to ask of anyone at this point. I won't do it. Yeah. I don't want to do my job either, actually, now that I think about it.
I want to do my job, your job, Stacy's job.
Just do your job. Be accountable. Try hard, Anyway, what else you got, dude? We're running out. Do you want to do a Mail Soul tonight as well?
Yeah, we should. We're already here. And what time is it? If I try and drive home right now, I'm going to get stuck in traffic.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock.
May as well record some more.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and end right now? Do you want to close this out, and then we'll jump back into another recording? We'll knock out 2 recordings in 1 week.
Yeah. So what I want to close out with is a story about a dog. The puppy was a dog, But the industry, that was a revolution, my friends.
I don't have anything.
That was a Billy Madison reference. That was.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I remember.
And he's like, in no point of anything you just said was there anything that resembled a coherent response. Everyone in this room
is now dumber, right?
for having listened to what you just for having heard it. I award you no points.
And may God have mercy on your soul.
Dear God, a simple no would have been over.
I guess I might have to input that into this episode.
Yeah, it's got to be done now.
All right, man. Well, you guys have a blessed night, and we're going to click stop now and immediately click record and knock out a second episode in 1 week for your listening pleasure.
Have you ever talked to my uncle?
Oh, my God. Bye. Hey, guys. It's me, Tommy, again. I know at the very end of this episode, we mentioned that we were going to do a second recording and get 2 episodes out this week. However, the second recording ended up going a little more in depth than what I originally had hoped, and we only got about halfway done with it, maybe 1/3 of the way done with it. So we saved what we had, and we will continue to record that episode next week, and who knows, maybe you'll get 2 next week. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, again, have a blessed night. And as promised, here's that clip from one of our favorite movies, Billy Madison. And also, one last note, I'm getting really bad about mentioning this. I just usually forget. If you ever want to reach out and contact us, share a story with us, maybe something really good that happened in your life that you want to brag about, maybe something not so good that happened to you that you think might help someone else and you'd like to share that story, feel free to email us. It's openmicnightpodcast@yahoo.com. That's openmicnightpodcast@yahoo.com. We really look forward to seeing your story. And again, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Come on. Okay. The Industrial Revolution, to me, is just like a story I know called The Puppy Who Lost His Way. The world was changing, and the puppy was getting bigger. So you see, the puppy was like industry, in that they were both lost in the woods. And nobody, especially the little boy, society, knew where to find them. Except that the puppy was a dog. But the industry, my friends, that was a revolution. Nib-high football rules!
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but